big question parents have when they bring them to my martial arts school is, what do we do about bullying? And it's not what you think. You see, it doesn't matter how much you weaponize them, how many techniques you teach them, how strong you get them. If they're not strong up here, their self-esteem and confidence, if they don't believe they can do it, they won't be able to use what we teach them. And oftentimes you'll hear the parents say, well, just push them back, hit them back, stand up for yourself, be brave, be confident, just be this. But sometimes they just can't. When we take a closer look at what's happening up here in the brain, we can understand why and how we can really help them. And it really doesn't matter what type of bullying it is. This is going to work for all of the scenarios. Bullying at home, bullying in a playground, bullying by your friends, by your family, by your siblings, by your parents, cyberbullying. Here's the thing, there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. And what it's responsible for is your fight, flight, faint, or freeze. It's like that internal security guard, like that radar, constantly looking out for danger, danger, danger all the time. And one of its fundamental jobs are to process your emotions plus your body's stress responses. Now, when your amygdala gets fired up, it's going to release a chemical called cortisol, which is your stress hormone. And if bullying is a constant thing, like maybe at school or at home, what's going to happen is your amygdala will continuously release this cortisol. It will continuously stress the body. And what it becomes sensitized to the information that goes in. So it's always going to be seeing alerts. It's always going to be scared. It's always going to be firing off cortisol. So what it starts to do, it starts to see everything as danger, everything as stress. So I have told the story before. I got the story from my child development coach, Melody Johnson. And the story is this. Imagine that you have a child, and every time that child goes to school, they open the door and there's a wolf there. There's a wolf with rabies and blood and everything. And it's right at the door. Every time you open the door, it's hungry. You can hear its mind, I want to eat you. Okay, the kid's going to shut the door really quick. And of course what's going to happen is the amygdala is going to see a danger, it's going to alert you, it's going to release cortisol, it's going to cause stress, it's going to cause anxiety, it's going to cause fear. What if we then do this again tomorrow? And the wolf is there, and we do it the next day, and the wolf is there, and the wolf is there, and the wolf is there. In the end, the amygdala is so sensitized to when you open that door that there's the danger there, the wolf, that it's going to see danger in everything. And this is going to lead to a future anxious and stressed child or adult. And to understand this a little bit easier, think about this. How many times have you done it? How many times do you do it on a daily basis? We all do. We all have that worry. What about tomorrow? What about if I can't pay the mortgage? What about this? What about that? What if such and such sees my social media picture? What if such and such sees me do this? Or they heard me say that? What if? What if? We'll constantly look at scenarios that don't exist yet we're afraid of them. Great science lesson, Steve. But what's this got to do with bullying? I'm so glad you asked. You see, there's this other part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, and it sits at the front here. And what its job is, what it's responsible for, is emotional regulation, making good choices, and reasoning. So if I was a prefrontal cortex right now, and I was getting stress and cortisol released, anxiety from my amygdala, this is how I'd look. You see, when the prefrontal cortex is affected by the fog of all the stress and cortisol and anxiety released from the amygdala because of fear and desensitization of the amygdala, of stress, of fear, thinking everything's going to be fearful all day long, the cognitive flexibility of the prefrontal cortex is pretty much zero. Now this is emotional regulation, making good choices, thinking choices, reasoning, and any choice that I need to make that would help me when I'm bullied. For example, if I'm being bullied, surely the right choice if it was at school would to be go up to a teacher, the headmaster, somebody, and say, hey, this little what's it is causing me anxiety and stress. But because we cannot make that decent choice, that reasoning choice, and we are emotionally dysregulated, we're going to make terrible decisions. I better not say anything to anyone, because I don't know what's going to happen. It might get worse. Now that would be a terrible choice. So the choices you're making are really foggy, because maybe the right choice, you can see the right choice and you think, oh, that's a terrible choice. And you look at the terrible choice and think, well, this must be the right choice. And one of the big problems is that people don't want to talk about being bullied when they're being bullied, and they don't want to tell you if they were bullied in the past. Remember this guy? No one said a word to me. But it's not his fault. It's not their fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's simply science. The amygdala is firing off so much fog, cortisol, stress, anxiety, the prefrontal cortex is struggling to know what to do, to know what way to go. Should I tell someone? Oh, just be quiet. It's easier to fall and have this emotion and this anxiety run my life than go into the logic part of my brain and think about it. Now, running a martial arts school for over 30 years, coaching MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, and many more, I often see this where the parent will say, just stand up for yourself. Why don't you push them back, hit them back, tell them what you mean, tell them what you think of them. But what you're doing, you're not approaching it in the right way, because the prefrontal cortex, what you're trying to reason with, doesn't have the ability, the cognitive flexibility right now to actually listen to your reasoning. And don't forget, bullying comes in many forms. For example, it's physical, of course. Someone's beating you up, someone's hitting you. There's mental, someone's psychologically attacking you, calling you names, etc., etc. And there's shaming, belittling you. These are all forms of bullying. And then we have today in our world, cyberbullying. So how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to solve this problem of bullying when most of it really is our fault because we can't make the right choice? And obviously, many parents bring their children to a martial arts school to say, hey, my child's being bullied, they need some confidence, please fix them. Because a lot of parents also say, well, I did martial arts as a kid and it helped me. And can it help? Yes, it can. It can totally help. Because if you go into a martial arts school, first of all, you're exercising, so you're releasing your endorphins. And you have anticipation and rewards with your dopamine and your serotonin. And you're mixing around and finding new friends and having fun, which is your oxytocin. And all these will combat the cortisol that's being released throughout your body. So can martial arts work? Yes, when it's done right. So let's break down these 4 chemicals that eliminate cortisol or counter cortisol, and how we can use them at home, and simple things we do with our child to help them and start making those good decisions, regulate them emotionally. But remember, it's not like a movie like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, when they go somewhere and they go to hit them and then they jump around and get on them and flip them up and do 10 spinning kicks in the air and kick them. It's nothing like that. What it's going to look like, in fact, we don't want that. We don't want our child hitting other children, becoming the bully themselves. What we want is our child to be able to stand up for himself, make a great choice and say, look, what do you mean you're saying this to me? Where's the nearest teacher? Where's my parents? Where's someone in charge? Because they're going to find out what you're doing to me right now. That is the right choice. But how can we get our child to see that? All right, so let's start with the first chemical that's going to counter cortisol. It's called dopamine. And what it is, it means anticipation of a reward. So anything you can reward your child with, for example, if you come home at this time today, I'm going to be so proud of you. The reward is that, hey, when I get home at this time, my parents are going to be proud of me. Or I used to give my child jobs around the house and then I'd pay her in Robux. So it's like when she's done her chore, she's anticipating getting her reward of Robux. I mean, there's 1,000 ways you can reward your child with care, with love, with pride, with so many things. And chemical number 2 is oxytocin. And what that is a social chemical. So you want to be doing lots of hugs, lots of, man, I totally feel you, I see where you're coming from, high fives, shaking hands, those type of things as much as you can. Number 3 is serotonin. And what that is an actual reward, is satisfaction. So let's try and ride a bike. And I start riding a bike. I can do this. Let's go for a run. and I run and I win. I did it. Let me do this. Let me do that. Something. Let me build the Lego Death Star. I've done it. I've achieved it. So you always say, wow, well done for that. And the easiest one of all is endorphins, chemical number 5. Let's do 10 star jumps. Let's go for a run. Let's go to the gym. Let's do martial arts. All 4 of these chemicals added up together will counter cortisol. You've got 1 cortisol versus 4. 4's going to win. The more you do this every day, every day. Of course, if you find a great martial arts school, a skill school that does all 4, you're really pushing the boat out. Okay, so we're on a path to giving our child self-regulation, good reasoning, helping them make good choices. How's that going to help bullying? Well, of course, if a bully comes up to me and pushing me around, the first thing I'm going to say, what are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? Okay, they're going to keep doing it. Okay, I'm going to go tell the person that this is wrong. You know what I mean? I'm going to have that choice. There's no fear and anxiety and stress that, oh, if I go and tell someone I'm going to get in trouble, or it's going to get worse, or it's going to escalate, I'm going to be seen as a tattletale. These are all bad choices. The good choice, if you're in a school and someone's pushing around and making fun of you, the first thing you need to do is step up. But you can only do this when you have regulation in the brain. Imagine you could always, hey, someone's saying something bad about you. You look at it and think, well, they're just stupid. You know, hey, this isn't right. I'm going to tell somebody about this. If we could give that to our child, not only is it going to help them now, but imagine if they can make these great choices and they can self-regulate their emotions in the future, that they can really understand when a choice is good and when a choice is bad. Now, if you're getting great value from this information, please give me a subscribe and a thumbs up below, because you know what? That really helps me continue to make and share this information. And if you want more help, then I've designed a course that you can see in the description below, which goes over many objective measures and talks about how the brain works for children in a lot more detail. And check out this video on how you can really help your child's confidence. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got good information. I'll see you real soon.